Okay, now that I've talked about my favorite finesse rig, the Nico rig, I'm going to talk about my second favorite, and that's called the Mojo rig. And there's a lot of different names out there for this. It's really a variation of the split shot rig. I've also heard it called the finesse Carolina rig. I just call it the Mojo rig. Now, what I use to fish this rig, a lot of people fish it differently. It doesn't necessarily matter, but I'm going to show you the way that I like to do it. My rig consists of straight 10-pound braid. Again, just 10-pound braid, no leader, no swivel like a Carolina rig. I take a 3/16 ounce cylindrical weight and I peg it. And when I peg it, it allows me to slide the weight up and down and to move the length that the worm is from the weight. And I like that about this rig. The hook that I use for this bait is just a regular 2-aught straight shank offset worm hook. I like using VMC, doesn't matter, whatever brand. What I have found though to work the best on this rig as for a bait is an Elastec worm. Z-Man is known for making their Elastec worms. They make a great 7-inch and 4-inch finesse worm out of Elastec material. Now why I like to use Elastec is because it floats. Unlike a Zoom worm, a trick worm or finesse worm, which has salt and regular soft plastic that sinks, the Elastec material floats. So when this bait is down there, the weight sits on the bottom and the worm floats. It floats above the weight and above the little bit of vegetation and gets it off the bottom, which presents a really unique way for the fish to see the worm down at this depth. Now, I really didn't start using the Z-Man worm until this season. Before that, I used the trick worm. I used the Perfect Plastic, Strike King Perfect Plastic finesse worm. And those work great too, but I've noticed that I've gotten more bites fishing the Z-Man Elastec worm. So definitely check that out, experiment around with that. However, any kind of finesse worm works great for this, and that's usually what I stick to, is a 7-inch finesse worm or trick worm. I don't often go down to the 4-inch size. If fishing is really tough, I will, but I won't usually stick with a 7-inch size and the finesse worm. You can use a Senko, you can use a curly tail worm, but it really comes down to whatever you have confidence in. Now, the rod that I throw this on isn't necessarily the best rod for it right now. I would normally use a 7-foot rod. This is a 6.5-foot medium power fast action St. Croix spinning rod with old Quantum Accura's spinning reel with 10-pound Fireline braid. This rig, the way it's different from the Nico rig is this rig allows me to cover water pretty fast, and I like that. I like being able to get a worm down, present it to fish that are deep, but still cover water. Because with the Nico rig or the drop shot or shaky head, a cast can take up to 3 minutes or longer than that. And with this rig, it's pretty easy. You cast, sink, you drag it. That's it. And so I like this rig a lot for that because it allows me to cover water at a very reasonable rate. Again, with this rig, I like to throw it, usually I'm not going to throw it shallow. This is a rig I like to throw out on the deeper weed lines. Anywhere from, again, about 12 feet to 20 feet or more. This rig really excels around sparser vegetation. If the vegetation is too thick, it's going to be really hard to fish this bait. So you're looking for vegetation that's a little more sparse. You can get bottom contact without getting hung up. And it really is as simple as cast and drag. And I will show you the way I like to fish this rig as well. Alright, well, I was just about to start talking to you about the Mojo rig. And I've already got a fish on my first cast with it. It's a little guy. So I came over to a different spot in the lake. This spot, it's about 10 feet deep. A little clear water, a little more healthy weed line, and calm. There's a fish. Now, I didn't even get a chance to start talking about how to fish this rig yet, and it's already caught me a fish. And here, let me go over the way I like to fish the Mojo rig. And now this rig is very different from the Nico rig. And first things first, cast it out there. Get the cast out, give it some line, and watch your line sink. It's going to sink pretty fast. I'm using a 3/16 ounce weight. It's only about 10 feet deep. And now this is how you work the bait. Once it's on the bottom, again, I like pulling my rod sideways. It allows me to visually see when my rod tip is hitting a weed or when it's getting a fish. And I just I'm more comfortable fishing it that way. So I just put my rod tip to the side and slowly pull. And the thing you need to remember is, with this, a little goes a long way. You want to fish it slow, but not too slow. You gotta remember that when your rod tip is going from here to there, you're really pulling a lot of line. So you gotta make sure you pull it slow. Just nice and easy, just like that. And now, with this rig, the weight is gonna be hitting the weeds first. So as you can see right now, I'm on a weed. You just kind of softly pull it through, it should come through. That's really it for fishing this rig. It's really simple. You just cast it out there and drag it. Now you can kind of change it up. You can pop it a few times, but really most of your bites are going to come while you're dragging this pulley. And you'll just kind of feel it as you start to drag. You feel a tick, 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 and you just learn to differentiate what's a fish and what's a weed. But really the most important thing about this rig is the hook set. Now, if you're familiar with fishing a Carolina rig, the hook set's going to be very similar. Now, the issue with it is, since the weight is not connected directly to the hook, if you set the hook like you would a jig, like this, what you're doing is you're setting the weight, and the hook isn't necessarily going to be getting pulled into the fish's mouth. When you pull on this, the weight's going up. The line behind the weight, which has the hook, most important part, might not ever even meet that fish's mouth. So, just like with a Carolina rig, you're going to want to do a sweep set. But not as hard of a sweep set, because this is a finesse rig and you're using a light wire hook. And if you're not familiar with the sweep set, I'll show you what it is right now. So as you're dragging that bait along, you're going to feel a tick, 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 and you know there's a fish. What I do then is I put my rod tip forward, reel up the slack, and then set into them like that. See, it's a sweep set. So what you do is you're setting both the weight and the hook. It's all attached as one. You're sweeping it to the side, the line's going horizontally, and the hook fish. So remember, with this rig, hook horizontally, don't hook vertically. Because if you set that hook going up, you're going to pull the weight up, but that rig, the hook, may never even get the fish's mouth. If you pull it sideways, you're going to pull it all as one unit. That's really the most important thing about this rig, is the hook set. So those are my two favorite finesse rigs, the Nico rig and the Mojo rig. I'm just going to go over a few points to really emphasize, so if you get anything out of this video, it should be this. For both of those rigs, I like using braided line. 10-pound braid is what I use for both of them, Fireline and Power Pro. It doesn't matter which one you use. Now, the reason why I like using braid, two reasons. One is it has no stretch, which means when I'm fishing deep, I can feel any tiny little tick, and it's very sensitive, so I'm not going to be missing bites with that. And since it has no stretch, when I have a long cast out and I'm fishing in 17 feet of water and I get a bite and I set the hook, if I have mono, that's a lot of stretch in the line. With braid, straight connection from me to the hook, so I know I'm going to be able to hook that fish. Another bonus with the braid is when you're fishing the Mojo rig and you're using the elastic worm, like I said, it allows, since the elastic worm floats, you need a line that floats too. Braid doesn't sink. Fluorocarbon will sink, so that will impair the action. So that's just kind of another little bonus, another reason why I don't use a leader when I don't have to. I do say these are my favorite finesse rigs. However, that doesn't mean you only have to use them when conditions get tough. They're not just for finesse fishing. I like them mainly to fish deep. I don't really like fishing a Carolina rig deep. I don't really like fishing a Texas rig deep or deep cranking, because I just don't always have the confidence that those are going to catch me fish. I have a lot of confidence in the Nico rig, especially, that when I fish it deep, it's going to get me a bite. So when do you use this bait? Like I said, they're my favorite finesse rigs, so use it when times get tough. When you can't get a bite on your Texas rig or crankbait, throw one of these on. Get on 12 feet of water, or any depth really. You're probably going to catch a fish. I like to use it when times get tough. So that means when the water gets a little colder, that's when the Nico rig is really good. Mojo rig isn't really great in cold water. When the water gets really hot and the fish just shut down, when we have a cold front roll through, or when you're fishing a lake like this, it has all kinds of fishing pressure. These fish have seen every jig, every Texas rig, every color Senko that you can imagine. So they're just getting the snot just beat out of them shallow. So throw something different at them deep. I'm willing to bet not many guys are going to be throwing the Nico rig or the Mojo rig. So throw those, you're going to be offering a different presentation, giving you an advantage out there. That's really how you fish my two favorite rigs, my two favorite finesse rigs. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. If you want me to go in more depth on either of these two rigs, just ask, and I probably can throw up another video here. But thank you for watching. Got to give these a try on your local waters. They're great rigs, especially if you fish pressured lakes, like this lake. So many boats on this lake, it's ridiculous. Makes it almost impossible to fish, but give it a try. Thank you for watching. Get out there fishing.